and I was young, and I forgive myself for that. Well, hello everyone. It's been a while, but it's me, Teresa Parker, and here I have been helping premium content creators harness their entrepreneurial skills that they're learning right now in order to build a better future. And if you watched a few of my last couple videos, I talked about how I'm not doing OnlyFans anymore, and I've been going through this rebrand, and I just don't really know what to talk about, so that's why I haven't posted in a while. But I am gonna be bridging that gap today. I wanted to talk about the positive things that came out of my time as an OnlyFans creator, because you know, a lot of people just assume that I regret it and that I quit because I feel ashamed of that chapter of my life, and that's really not the truth whatsoever. Surely there were some things that I didn't like about it, and I really don't feel like it aligns with what I'm trying to build for myself anymore, but I don't feel any kind of guilt or shame about it because a lot of positive things came from it, and I'm gonna tell you what those things are right now. For starters, I would probably still be living in Iowa if I hadn't started selling content while I was in college. I don't know if y'all know this story, but I was in a community college when I lived in Iowa, and I was supposed to go on to a university, but then I decided to move to Texas instead a month before I was supposed to go to that university, and I wouldn't have had enough money if it hadn't been for the content that I was selling at the time. I also wouldn't have as nice of a car as I do right now if I hadn't had that extra money set aside. It was my very first time buying a brand new car. It also helped that I bought it during the pandemic, so like sales of cars were like down, so I got a really good deal on it, and it had a really nice warranty on it. But I probably would have waited to get a brand new car if I didn't have the funds coming in to pay for it every month. I also wouldn't have been able to buy the house that I bought in 2020 and then sell it for a profit at the top of the housing bubble. So in order to get more bang for my buck, I decided to buy a house way out in the country, and my plan was to finish my degree, and then I was going to flip it while I was living there, and then I was going to sell it. But when the housing bubble was at its peak, I decided to sell my house anyway, just because I wanted to be back in the city. It was really hard for me to connect with other creators when I was living out in the middle of nowhere, and I had to drive over an hour every single time I wanted to do any kind of photo shoot or even just hang out with my friends. And so I was able to buy a house, fully furnish it. I still have like most of my furniture. I think that's another thing that a lot of people don't think about, is when you buy a house, furnishing it can get really expensive. So again, just having enough money to be able to do that is incredible. And going along with money, I felt really inspired to learn financial responsibility at a young age. I started selling premium content when I was just 21 years old, and I went until I was 25 years old. So 4 years selling premium content, and near the end of it, when I was making more and more money, I was just trying to be more responsible because I could tell that it wasn't something I was going to do long term. And I was like, well, how am I going to save all of this money that I'm making and just be financially responsible? So that's how I started getting into investing, and also like trying to start my own business and registering and just dotting my I's, crossing my T's, something that I probably wouldn't have learned how to do until I was much older if I hadn't already been running a business. Which, if you haven't read my book, Slut to CEO, that's exactly what the whole thing is about. It's Slut to CEO, converting your fan site subscriptions to a sustainable business model. And it's all about taking these positive aspects that I'm talking about and like injecting them into your OnlyFans business. So like financial responsibility, personal health and safety, like work-life balance. There are just so many things that people overlook just because of the industry that we're in. The next thing is a little less physical. It's more emotional, because I feel like I'm way better at saying no and setting boundaries now. Because I think a big part of the reason that I even started selling premium content was because like I was kind of a people pleaser. I was always seeking out male validation, and I was really easy to coerce. Like, I was worried that people didn't like me, so I would do things that people wanted me to do that didn't really feel aligned, and I didn't really listen to my body the way that I do now. And so I started saying yes to things that probably weren't the best for me. And I was young, and I forgive myself for that. But now that I'm older, wiser, more mature, I am very vocal. I advocate for myself. You know, I've started doing more traditional modeling, and on sets, I've had my peers tell me that that's something that they really admire about me, is that I'm very vocal. Like, if something doesn't make sense for my personal brand, I'm gonna speak up. Like, there have been times somebody has like asked me to wear something in a fashion show, and I'm like, well, what if I wear this instead? Because it's more of my personality and it fits with my branding better. Or when people, you know, obviously there are issues in the entertainment industry with, you know, sexualization, and I'm very vocal about, you know, nipping that shit in the bud. And I think it's also very helpful for some of the younger models that I work with, because it's really easy to be, you know, taken advantage of in even traditional modeling. But since I feel like there have been times that I wasn't true to myself on my OnlyFans journey, I'm much more vocal about it now, because that's one of my biggest regrets, is like letting people push my boundaries and not doing what actually made me happy and comfortable. Because I started my content creation journey like not showing my face, only doing underwear, blah 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 blah, and then like just because I knew I could make more money, it was a quick cash grab, I just would do more and more and more. And like I said, that just wasn't me, and that's one of the big reasons that I quit selling premium content, is just like that more mindset. And now I think I'm way more strict with my boundaries. I'm way more vocal about how I feel, and that's helped me a lot in my adult life. And on top of that, I've become a really good director, right? Because I know what looks good on me. I know my angles. I know what kind of lighting I like. I can tell people, especially like if we're doing TFP, trade for print shoots, and they're like just getting some practice in, and they don't really know how to direct a model the way a more professional photographer might. As a model, you kind of have like your certain poses and angles that you know look good on you. You can work the camera in certain ways, and that just comes with practice. And I used to take hundreds of photos of myself every week just to find the good ones to post, because I was doing everything by myself. If you want to know more about that, I recommend you check out my video about how I do at-home photo shoots, because yeah, I set up all the lighting, I set up my tripod and everything. Definitely you have more options when someone else is taking your photo, and so that's why it's really good to learn how to work a camera. And also other models will compliment me. They're like, oh my God, like, how do you know your angles so well? How do you do such good facials? And I'm like, because I've had a lot of practice. And it's a lot easier to practice when you're doing it all yourself, because obviously if someone's taking photos of you, sometimes like your pose might be good, but if they're taking it from a different angle than you're used to, you're not really working the camera. You're not moving along with the photographer. And I think that that's really important to learn as a model. And it's way easier to learn when you're doing it yourself, because like I said, hundreds of photos of myself per week, maybe even up into the thousands, because I would just have to look at it and I could be like, oh, this angle's too low. I would have to move my camera. The lights I would have to move. And so I've gotten really, really good at just like monitoring those things as I go. And that's also the reason that I take great photos of other people. Like, I feel so giddy when a stranger will be like, here, can you take my photo? Because I know that like, unless there is a photographer in the vicinity, I'm probably going to be like the best option for them to ask to take their photo. And girls have even told me that before. I'll be like, here you go. And I'll ask them, I'm like, oh, does this look okay? And they're like, that's great. They're like, that's exactly why we asked you. You look like the kind of girl who can take amazing photos. And it just like brings me such joy to satisfy people in that way, because I think a lot of times when you ask someone to take your photo, like they'll just snap a couple pictures, but like I try to get the different angles and I make sure everybody's in the picture. I'll find the light and I'll try and like, I'll do my best, honestly. I even carry around a little portable light. And there are some more things that I've kind of thought about like throughout the morning, and then I didn't write them down. But what I really wanted to finish up with is just the time that I had, you know? A lot of people my age are trying to find themselves, but they don't have the time, the money, the resources to do so. But in my time on OnlyFans, I had a lot of time to like self-reflect, because, you know, it was quarantine. I was working from home. I was making thousands of dollars only working like 2 or 3 days a week. So I had a lot of free time. And even on those days that I was shooting content, it would take me maybe 4 to 6 hours. So I wasn't working a full day. And also I was at home and it wasn't that hard, right? I was taking photos of myself, but I was doing what I did every day, right? Like I do my hair and makeup, and then I turn on my lights, and then I take a bunch of photos of myself. And then I change my outfit, and then I take some more photos of myself. And that was my work week. So I had a lot of free time, and I started going to therapy again. And I didn't have health insurance, but I was able to afford therapy. I started going once a week, but then after I felt as if I were like caught up, I was going to like once a month, and then finally like just whenever I felt like I needed it. I haven't been to therapy in a while, but I also don't feel like I need it as much because I'm just not being talked to the same way. I'm not having the same self-doubt and second guessing myself the way that I was during that era of my life. Like I said, I'm way more self-assured, way more vocal about my needs, and also aware of those needs. I started reading again just to connect with my inner child. That's when I started writing my book, Slut to CEO. I went back to college just because I didn't like how people treated me, like I wasn't smart just because of my job. So first I started reading again during quarantine, and then once quarantine was over, I went back to school. And then, like I said, from 2020 until I released the book last year in August, I was writing Slut to CEO. That's also the time that I got back into modeling. So when I was like 14, 15 years old, I was signed with an agency in Illinois, like small town Illinois, not Chicago. But yeah, I didn't get a lot of work because there just wasn't anything around except Von Mar. And I kept being told I needed to be thinner, I needed whiter teeth before they would book me. And so I really got out of it, and I was focused on sports and school. And then when I moved down to Texas, I had a few friends who had boutiques, and I started doing like Instagram modeling for them. And then my first runway show was Fort Worth Fashion Week last year in the spring summer season. And that really kickstarted my more traditional modeling career. Even this YouTube channel wouldn't have been started if I hadn't had my OnlyFans to begin with. Again, I just had the time on my hands. I wanted to educate people. I started this YouTube channel talking about books. It was the Bimbo Book Club. And then I did my rebrand after I wrote my book, or as I was writing my book, kind of. Just so many changes have come to my life that make it feel way more aligned. Like, even though OnlyFans and premium content sales don't feel aligned anymore, it really set me up for success in a lot of other areas of my life. And I think a lot of people don't see that. When I tell people that I used to do OnlyFans, but then I quit, they always think that I found Jesus, or I feel ashamed of myself in some way, and like I think that I need to change or that I need to hide this. And that's really not the truth. I'll probably start doing more modeling videos. I know that I have a draft saved of like what to wear to a casting call or what to wear to a runway show, like before you're starting. I've got a couple ideas about modeling videos, but if you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments, because that's one of the big reasons I haven't been posting. That and my phone and my laptop ran out of storage. I just got a new phone, so we'll see. I'm kind of irritated. I used to have an iPhone 11 and now I have the 14, and tell me why the camera is low-key worse. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you like content like this, you want to support me in the future, please hit the red subscribe button down below. There's a bell notification so you can be notified every time I post new content. If you like this video, or you just like me, give it a thumbs up, and I will see y'all in the next one.